How you doing, guys? My name is Dana Brown from Masterland Investing University. First of all, I want to welcome you guys to our audio. Thank you guys for tuning in. What I want to talk about today is performing your due diligence as a land investor. Super important thing. You need to get that done. You can't neglect that. This way, going into closing and after closing, once you have ownership of the property, you know you've pretty much checked off everything that needs to be checked off, and your property is what you think it is. Pretty much the definition of performing due diligence is it's an inspection of your property prior to closing. And when I say that, what it means is crossing all your T's, dotting all your I's, making sure you do your homework, you understand what the property is, so on. One of the other things that I include when I do my due diligence, especially if you're selling to a builder or a potential discount buyer from your buyer's list, is go ahead and get your title search done. Very important. This way you know who's on the deed. If it's the person that signed the contract, is going to sign the contract, is the person on the deed. There's no liens or encumbrances. This way you're not held up at closing, or you can still get the deal done. Another very important one you need to check off is your utilities. You got to make sure if it's city water, city sewer, if it's going to need a leach field, if you have to drill for water, how far that may be down typically to get to water. Very important issue. Another one is endangered species. In Florida, we come across that quite a bit. There's a lot of areas in Florida that still have protected birds, turtles, etc. A lot of the counties have overlay maps, or a realtor can help you out with that and clarify if there are or there isn't any protected species on your property. But it's very important because if you may have turtles or birds, it could be quite costly to have them removed. Another important issue is your HOA fees. A lot of communities have HOA fees or impact fees, and you need to understand if there are, and if they are impact fees or HOA fees, how is that paid? Especially with the impact fee end of it. Is it paid when a person decides to build? Is it a cost that you incur when you buy from a seller and you pay the fees at closing? Or is it something that can just be passed on and paid over time? Another one's your survey. And I think that's another real important one if you're going to go ahead and sell to builders or somebody potential on your buyer's list that you're going to possibly assign. You get that out of the way, make sure there's no, any encroachments on your property. The boundaries are what they say they are. Very important issue. You just don't want to have any of these things hold you up at closing, because the key is to buy and sell land at an efficient rate and keep your money flowing. Another important issue is your type of ground surface and subsurface. Are there contaminants? Is the ground flat? Is there ledge? Can it be built on? So on. Another one would be wetlands. You got to make sure if there is wetlands, how much of the property does it encompass? Another issue is your zone, your flood zone. Find out if it's in a flood zone. If it's in a flood zone, then typically the person that's going to build down the road, their insurance is going to be a little different because it is in a flood zone. Most time you can build, but there's certain things you got to do to work around that. I think I mentioned mineral rights. If I haven't, I'm going to mention it. Mineral rights are real important. A lot of places in the country, actually, you can acquire the mineral rights. A lot of times when somebody's selling the property, they'll retain the mineral rights. So that's an important issue you need to understand. Road access, very important. Is your property landlocked? If it is, that could be an issue. Does it have a paved road or is it a dirt road? Things you need to understand prior to closing on the property. When writing a contract, typically what I do is I include on the feasibility period, which is your due diligence basically, and I pretty much structure that in the contract that it's at the same time as closing. So for instance, if it's a 60-day closing, then my feasibility period would be 60 days. And feasibility period is basically the same as doing your due diligence. And the way I structure my contract is it is for any reason that I have an issue or whatever it may be under the sun, I decide do not want to purchase the property, I can get out of the deal using my feasibility study period. As an investor, a lot of times what you're trying to do is you're trying to find a buyer for your property prior to closing so you can do a simultaneous closing or so on. And if you have that feasibility study that's structured, that goes right to the closing date, and you can't find a buyer, it gives you that option of getting out of the deal and still getting your deposit back. So all these things are very important. Like I always say in these other lessons, inspect what you expect. You don't want to close on a property and find out later that you have issues with the property, and now you can't move the property like you intended to, and now it's messing up your exit strategy. You're bound to the deal. You have a property that you can't move. Nobody's really interested because of these issues. So just be a good student. Make sure you do your due diligence. You don't want to avoid this. It's a real important factor in doing business as a land investor. So basically, I think I've covered most of the bases. All these things need to be evaluated prior to closing. Like I said, it's part of doing business. It's a cost of business, but I think to be smart and to protect yourself, and that's most important, make sure you get this performed. You can do it yourself. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes a little homework and making sure you're diligent about doing so. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please hit the like button. If you feel it's worth sharing, please share. You can also subscribe to our channel. We're going to be providing ongoing videos and audios in reference to this land business. So thank you very much once again. Have a great day. Stay positive. Continue to be a student. We look forward to seeing you soon. I'm out. Bye-bye.